Good evening. I'm your host, Aminata Diallo. Tonight, I bring you breaking news from Burkina Faso that is developing as we speak. On the night of January 3rd to 4th, 2026, a historic event unfolded in Burkina Faso. A coup attempt against President Captain Ibrahim Traoré was thwarted by security forces through timely intervention. This news is significant not only for Burkina Faso, but for the entire African continent, because this event, once again, exposes the plots and interventions of imperialist powers against Africa's independent leaders. Tonight, I will bring you all the details of this coup attempt, its background, historical context, and what it means for Burkina Faso's future. Now, on your screens, you see this young leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. At 36 years old, he is the world's youngest head of state. And tonight, he has once again survived an imperialist conspiracy. According to information received from news agencies, on Friday night, January 3rd, Burkina Faso intelligence services detected suspicious activities in Ouagadougou. At certain strategic locations in the capital Ouagadougou, a group consisting of military personnel and civilians were preparing for a coup. Their plan was to seize the presidential palace and other state institutions. However, Burkina Faso's security forces have learned their lessons since the Thomas Sankara assassination. Since Thomas Sankara was martyred in 1987, the country has remained on high alert. Thanks to the intelligence unit's timely action, the coup attempt was neutralized before it could be executed. 9 suspects were detained. And now the most critical detail. The mastermind of the coup attempt is a close associate of former interim President Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. This name you see on your screens, Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, was removed from power by Captain Traoré in September 2022 and exiled to Togo. But apparently, his dreams of returning to power continue. According to intelligence sources, the coup attempt was coordinated from Lomé, the capital of Togo. Damiba's fingerprints on this conspiracy have been definitively identified. The evidence found on the arrested mastermind's phone is, in the prosecutor's words, irrefutable. Communications with Damiba, connections with foreign intelligence services, all the details of the coup plan have been revealed. Dear viewers, to better understand this event, we need to briefly look at Burkina Faso's recent years. Burkina Faso has been a country that has experienced numerous coups since its independence in 1960. The most painful one occurred in 1987. This photo you see on screen is Thomas Sankara, known as Africa's Che Guevara, the revolutionary leader. On October 15, 1987, he was killed by Blaise Compaoré, backed by imperialist powers. Since that day, Burkina Faso never tasted true independence, until 2022. In January 2022, Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba staged a coup against then-President Roch Kabore. The justification? Security failures against jihadist terrorists. However, nothing changed during Damiba's 8-month rule. French soldiers were still in the country. Gold and other natural resources continued to be plundered. The people remained poor and continued to starve. It was at this exact point that a young officer stepped in, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. In September 2022, at just 34 years old, Traoré and his comrades removed Damiba from power, and thus he became the world's youngest head of state. Traoré's rise was seen as the resurrection of Thomas Sankara's spirit. His Pan-Africanist rhetoric, his anti-imperialist stance, his connection with the people. Just like Sankara. But even this wasn't enough. Another coup attempt was prevented in September 2023, another in April 2025, And now, another in January 2026. Every time, the same names. Damiba's men, French intelligence, Western powers. You, our dear viewers, must be wondering, why do they keep attacking Burkina Faso? Why is Ibrahim Traoré under so much threat? The answer is very simple. Because Burkina Faso dared to become free. Now, these images you see on your screen are from Burkina Faso's first gold refinery. Construction began in 2023. What does this mean? Burkina Faso no longer sends its gold raw to Europe. It processes it in its own country, capturing the added value itself. This is an unacceptable situation for the imperialist system. In 2025, the Traoré government declared agricultural self-sufficiency. Thanks to the programme called Offensive Agropastoral et Halieutique, the country no longer imports food. Let's look at the numbers. Grain production has reached 7.14 million tonnes. This covers 126.4% of national needs. Yield per hectare has increased by 35 to 40%. If a country can feed itself, that country is truly free. Another important development, the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES for short. This alliance, formed with Mali and Niger, reduced jihadist attacks by 20% in 2025 through joint operations, and perhaps most importantly, the expulsion of France from the country. In place of French soldiers, equal partnerships were established with Russia, Turkey, and China. The Wagner Group, now known as Africa Corps, has been truly effective in Burkina Faso's fight against terrorists. Westerners waged a war on terror here for 10 years. The result? Terror multiplied. The Russians, in 2 years, did what they couldn't do in 10. This is why Burkina Faso is being targeted. Because a successful Burkina Faso is a dangerous example for all of Africa. If Burkina Faso succeeds, other African countries will do the same. And the imperialist system will collapse. Dear viewers, these images you're now seeing on your screen are from the night of January 3rd to 4th. Thousands of Burkinabe citizens took to the streets when they heard news of the coup attempt. The crowd gathered in front of the presidential palace in Ouagadougou, chanting, "We will defend Traoré." In their hands were Burkina Faso flags, some holding Russian flags. This is a very important indicator, because this coup attempt was prevented not only by security forces but also by the people. The people are awake. The people have not forgotten how Thomas Sankara was martyred. Never again will imperialist conspiracies succeed on this soil. However, to be realistic, Burkina Faso still faces major challenges ahead. While people in Ouagadougou are united, the situation in rural areas is very difficult. In 2025, more than 2,000 people lost their lives in jihadist attacks. 2 million people were displaced. The poverty rate is still 40%. There are still traitors inside, in the army, in the civil bureaucracy, in the media, those who commit treason for money, for power, or out of fear. But the Traoré government appears determined. Justice will be served, treason will be punished. Now let's turn to the future. What does the year 2026 mean for Burkina Faso? The Traoré government's plans are as follows. On the security front, large-scale joint operations will be launched with AES. On December 24, 2025, these operations were announced with the leaders of Mali and Niger. Significant successes were already achieved in December. Terrorist cells using drones were destroyed. Many areas were recaptured. On the economic front, the gold refinery will operate at full capacity in 2026. The mining sector will now serve the people of Burkina Faso, not foreign companies. On the agricultural front, food production will be further increased. The goal is not just self-sufficiency, but exporting to neighbouring countries. education and health. The goal is for every citizen to have access to free education and healthcare. This was Thomas Sankara's dream. Justice reform. The death penalty has been reinstated. Traitors to the nation, terrorists, and serious criminals will now receive the harshest punishment. While these measures are controversial, the Traore government appears determined. Dear viewers, this event is not limited to Burkina Faso alone. It contains important messages for all of Africa. Burkina Faso's struggle is all of Africa's struggle. The fight for a new Africa. An Africa freed from colonial mentality, neo-colonial dependence, and foreign intervention. Mali, Niger, Guinea, and other African countries are watching closely. AES is not just a military alliance, it's a new vision for Africa. Western powers are uncomfortable because it's no longer the 19th century. Africa is no longer their playground. Equal partners are wanted, not master-slave relationships. We call on world public opinion. What's happening in Burkina Faso is not as portrayed in the media. Labels like unstable coup country, failed state are being attached. The truth is this. A struggle for independence is being waged, and that's why it's being targeted. Dear viewers, we've reached the end of tonight's special broadcast. On the night of January 3rd, 2026, Burkina Faso proved once again, it will not surrender. Thomas Sankara's spirit lives on. Africa's hopes are shining. The year 2026 will be a critical year for Burkina Faso. The fight against jihadists will continue, the economy will strengthen, the people will prosper. And one day, very soon, all of Africa will be free. The last remnants of colonialism will disappear. Thomas Sankara's dream will come true. I'm Aminata Diallo, and I've been with you on this special broadcast. We will continue to bring Africa's voice to the world. Homeland or death, we shall overcome. Long live Burkina Faso. Long live Africa. Long live freedom. Good night.